The U.S. Department of Energy is cleaning up the Oak Ridge Reservation of residual hazardous and radioactive contamination left over as a result of decades of nuclear energy research. Much of that work has been influenced by the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board, a citizens panel that provides independent advice and recommendations on DOE's cleanup operations. You're welcome to attend the meetings and be part of this important work. For more information,
Let's start our meeting.
You gavel.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. It's been a minute. I think August we were talking, it was the last meeting, so a lot of time has passed. Hope everyone had a good end of the year. Good start of this year, so. Guess we'll start with federal comments. State representative. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
There you go.
Appreciate that. Is that okay?
Your floor?
I was going to say the same thing. Looking back at my notes, I think it has been since August of last year since we had a discussion. I think there's a lot to catch up on, not only from an Oak Ridge perspective, but man, it feels like a lot's happened in the world since last August too. So, but I'll stick to the Oak Ridge. Kind of going through my notes here. You know, since our last meeting, there's been two more economic development announcements. You've probably seen those. One was Oklo, and they've announced a $1.7 billion facility that they're going to build on site, and LIS Technologies also recently announced a $1.4 billion investment. You know, what's kind of amazing when I was looking back at 2025, I don't think I've worked at a site where the governor has visited the site that often. I think when I counted, there were something like 6 announcements that I went to last year. And I feel like the governor was at almost every one of those. It's just amazing the number of announcements that we've had. And I understand from the community that there may be a few more in the wings. So I think we'll probably see some additional announcements coming as well. But I think it just shows that the model here at Oak Ridge is working, has worked, continues to work. I think it's becoming a bit of a model for other places in the complex as well, in terms of how you can clean up land and then maybe put it to some beneficial use in the future. Processing goals for U-233. I think Roger was just talking about U-233 a little bit. I overheard a little bit of that discussion. We're actually approaching the 50% mark on completing our campaign to eliminate the remaining inventory that we have stored out at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. That's pretty exciting to get to the 50% mark. That process is going extremely well. As a matter of fact, it's going so well. I want to get done with the material that we have out there, but I want to make sure we're getting as much utility out of that process as we can. So I'm going to take a good hard look at ensuring that there aren't other things that we can possibly do with that process before we let it go away, because we've put a really unique machine together that has just the right combination of people and machinery and experience. And so if there's more things we can do with that, I'd certainly be interested in thinking and talking about that as well. Let's see, half the federal acreage on Oak Ridge, that's about 16,000 acres, has been deemed uncontaminated and do not require cleanup. That's really important as we think about redevelopment and reindustrialization, to be able to say there's a lot of acreage out there that we don't have to take additional measures on, and there's something we can do with it in the future. I'd like to be really clear, because I think there was some confusion after we made our announcement that people were thinking we're transferring that much acreage. We're not. Really the start of the process to say we can do something with that acreage in the future, and more than likely we will be having discussions, because clearly there's a lot of interest out there in things like AI data centers, power generation, whether that be gas or nuclear. And so I think some of that acreage will certainly factor into the discussions that are coming for Oak Ridge. We just completed a big demolition at Y12 Alpha 2. It's done. It's actually on the ground. It's amazing to see. There's still some spoils out there and rubble so that we need to haul away, and that work is going to continue for a little while. And of course, we'll finish the paperwork, but I am proud to say that we can actually say that that facility is done this year, which is really exciting. Tim Walsh, our new Assistant Secretary for Environmental Management, he's going to make his first visit to Oak Ridge later this month. In fact, right towards the end of the month. He's been to a couple of other sites, but not Oak Ridge yet. And so we're really excited to host him. I know he's going to get a pretty thorough overview of the work we're doing with cleanup, but he also wants to focus a lot of his time talking about reindustrialization. So I think he wants to hear the success story at Oak Ridge and how it's been done here and get an idea of how maybe he can model that other places in the complex. So that's going to be a very, very exciting visit for us. Probably should have led with this one too, but a couple of weeks ago, we did announce more internally to DOE. I think we'll see something externally. I've been named the acting manager of Portsmouth Paducah Project Office, and that's in addition to my duties as manager of the Oak Ridge office. So I am simultaneously the manager of Oak Ridge and Portsmouth and Paducah right now. So that does not mean we're putting the organizations together. I'm managing two separate organizations right now. We've already started the process of seeing how our teams can work together. I think there are some things happening at Portsmouth and Paducah we could maybe benefit from at Oak Ridge, and certainly vice versa, some things we've done here. So we're trying to get our teams together right now just to share regulatory experience where we can, reindustrialization experience, and just see where each other's teams really need help. So eventually we'll probably look at some sort of consolidation of those organizations, but I think that's a little ways in the future. If you have questions for me, I'd be happy to take them.
It's back the way it used to be, Eric.
I keep hearing that. So
Good luck.
Listen, that was a few days
Three
before.
different cultures,
yeah.
3 different cultures.
Hmm? I'm beginning to learn that right now.
Eric, someone
Oh.
online has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, who? Samantha.
Hey, I don't really have a question. If you were done, I was just going to get EPA's update.
Oh, ouch. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's great to be back and seeing you guys again. I've been out on medical leave for the past 4 months and am now returned back to working part-time telework, but I was told that there hasn't been an ORSAB meeting since I've been gone, so why not jump back in and pick up where I left off? So anyway, I'm grateful to be back. I had asked my supervisor in Jana, or the new FFA project manager for EPA, for some talking points, since I've been pretty much out of the loop about what's been going on. But so they sent me a few, which the first one was during October through December, EPA approved 3 remediation completions at ETTP Zone 2, and we're working on a few more. The FFA parties modified the ETTP Zone 2 remedy with an explanation of significant difference to add a greater level of land use restrictions as part of exposure unit Z216, which will ensure that the area will not be disturbed or developed. 2, EPA is currently working with EPA or with DOE and TDEC on the property transfer documentation for an approximate 48-acre parcel in ETTP Zone 2, which is near completion, and it's a high priority for all 3 agencies. On February 23rd, the executive level managers from EPA, TDEC, and OREM will meet with NNSA manager of Y12 to discuss coordinating active NNSA missions with circle cleanup activities. It's a high priority for EPA to coordinate circle cleanup activities with NNACE or SAE, since they are actively working in Y12 and may have a need to expand into areas that are slated for cleanup. All 3 agencies are prioritizing this coordination. That's all I've got. Happy to be back and looking forward to the rest of the meeting.
Yes, thank you. Roger, you have anything?
Yeah, one thing, most of you, I think, received an email from Shelley, asking about possible tour dates. If you would, at your earliest convenience, please respond back to that. We need to get our ducks in a row, and sometimes that can take a little while, especially since getting access to Y12 takes a little while, so the more lead time we have on this particular date, the better. You would please just check your inboxes and respond back accordingly. Thank you.
Christoph?
Yes, I just have one announcement. Since last month, we have a new deputy director who is gonna be over our office. His name is Justin Meredith. He replaces in that position Robert Wilkinson, who was transferred to other duties, still as a deputy director.
Justin, what was the last name?
Meredith.
Thank you. Do we have any other state, federal, online? Anyone else in the room?
I'd like to say go Seahawks. I hope you all watched the game. I mean, it's been 12 years.
Well,
Bob almost made it. They were cheated.
We'll give the floor to Mr. Williams for your presentation.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with y'all. My name is Ben Williams and I lead communications for OREM. And I think it was 7 years since the last time I gave this presentation. So I was starting to get concerned. There was a secret survey where they said what you preferred and what not, and they waited for the whole board to empty out before I could come back. But it has been exciting to see how things have changed in those 7 years. I listed some goals we had.
And you gotta defeat the technology. Hand it to-
Technology is great when it works.
It's handed to a woman.
So I have a few slides to go through and then I would love to, seems to be a topic that a lot of people have opinions and insights on because it's not very highly technical. And we're always looking for ideas. So I kind of go through how we approach the work and then I would love questions or insights or suggestions. And so the first thing to keep in mind is that we have lots of different audiences that we're trying to talk to. And first on the list is Congress. And they're the ones that give us the money for us to do the work we carry out. And so that's a really important audience for us to talk to. And our messaging to them is really focused on letting them know the dollars we receive are being used well. We have something to show for it and what we call being investment worthy. So for every dollar that we receive here, we have something to show for it. We set ambitious goals and we achieve those goals. The second group is stakeholders. Oak Ridge is a unique community. It's a very special community. I think we see a higher level of support for our mission than other sites enjoy. And we have a lot of stakeholders that help amplify our message or, if we succeed, they're succeeding. So we have a lot of people championing our mission because it impacts so many different people. So stakeholders you might not consider is the Y12 National Security Complex. Our progress there enables them to build new facilities and carry out their missions. And the same thing for Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So those are two big champions we have locally, but we also have the business community. So as we clean up land and transfer, that's more land for businesses to move in. So we have a lot of people that fit under the stakeholder category. Again, Oak Ridge is a unique community because I think we have the closest cleanup site to a community. All of our facilities are actually within the city limits of Oak Ridge. And so a lot of cleanup sites are in more rural or they have some distance from their communities. So we believe very strongly in the community's right to know what we're doing, how we're performing, because they're our host community and they're just right in our backyard. And finally, something that's sometimes overlooked as employees. We want to make sure our employees know what our goals are. And if everybody knows what we're trying to achieve, we're all rowing in the same direction. So that helps us achieve the ambitious goals that we set out. But secondly, that's really a secret ambassador for us. We have about 2,500 employees. And so when people believe in our mission, they do our mission the right way. They're at churches and grocery stores and T-ball games and everything else, sharing the work they're doing and helping people understand what we do and kind of building a confidence. And you don't have anything to worry about. I actually work on that project, and it really gives some validity to it. So we have some overarching goals of how we try to approach the outreach we do. I think the first thing is we want people to know what we're doing. And there's some other big programs in Oak Ridge. A lot of people are familiar with Y12 and ORNL. They have higher funding levels and higher employee counts, and sometimes that can take the headlines. But we also have an important mission, 2,500 employees, about $700 million a year. We're doing important work that affects all the other programs in town. So we try to boost the awareness of what we're doing. The second thing is we want to release messages that people can trust. So we want to put out information that's accurate and it's timely. So not only letting them know what we do, but also getting that information out in a timely fashion. But we also want that information to be understandable. So we try not to be too highly technical. We try to put it in a way that more general audiences can understand. And we try to connect the dots because some of our projects are so technical, or we'll talk about building numbers, but what's the context for that, right? Or what is getting that building ready for demolition? What does that really mean? So we try to put the context of clearing that facility allows us to have more space for the next project, or clear space for a new facility that's going to have cutting edge research at ORNL. Just try to add context besides just technical work or building numbers and things like that. And lastly, we try to do our communication in a way that people have the knowledge and comfort level to reach out to us if they do have questions. They know who to reach out to, and they have a comfort to do that. So we have a public involvement plan. This document is updated every 3 years. It actually dates back to the 1990s. So I think we've probably been through 11 or 12 iterations of this document. The purpose of this document really is to be a framework for how we share information. So this is the document that tells you who to contact if you have questions. It lays out what our legal requirements are. You know, the circular process can be technical. It actually lays out when we take public comment, how long we have to leave it open for public comment, details like that. And so this isn't meant to be a comprehensive document that includes all of our communication plans for every project. It just tells you how we communicate, when we communicate, how you can give input to us, and also who to contact if you have questions. And so we update that every 3 years because lots of people change out or change positions, or the way we communicate, the channels we use change. So that's why it's updated every 3 years. So this list has changed quite a bit since the last time I gave this presentation. This is a smattering of the different ways we get our messaging out. And I think the key takeaway here is that we try to use every approach at our disposal to make sure the word gets out, because not everybody reads information in the same places, or they're not all on the internet or all watching TV or all reading newsletters. So we try to come at it from different angles. So we have our traditional press releases and web stories and social media, but about 3 years ago, we launched, we're proud of this. This is the first newscast in the Department of Energy. So headquarters doesn't do it. No other site in the country does it. And we built a studio. We put out a monthly newscast, which is takes quite a bit of time and energy, but it's really paid off. And I think we're really seeing benefits from that. And I'll get more into that in some future slides. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out at the national level. We also have a local newsletter that comes out monthly. We do proactive media coverage to get media to cover our projects, but we also have media reach out to us when they have questions or they have interest in a topic. Board meetings like the one we're in tonight. We have publications that come out, briefings and tours that we drive people around to understand projects, public meetings, and then we are getting more and more involved in our local schools, elementary, middle school, high school, so STEM events, career fairs, and that kind of thing. So this is a closer look at the weekly newsletter. So this is all of the cleanup sites in the country feed into this newsletter. It comes out from headquarters. It has 100,000 subscribers, so it has a pretty good reach on it. And it's stakeholders from all the different sites. And so it's a way to magnify our message to a broader audience. It's released every Tuesday afternoon. If you're looking out for it, it's really easy to sign up for it. But this has been crucial for our office. We create content once for this newsletter, and then it gets distributed in different ways. So this comes out on Tuesday afternoon. Each of those stories becomes web content. They turn them into a web story that appears on EM headquarters website, and then it's cross-posted if it's an Oak Ridge story to our website. And then I have a link to share on our social media platform. So it pops up in an email through a newsletter, it pops up on headquarters website, pops up on our website, and then you'll see it on social media too. So about 2 years ago, we started our own newsletter, and this comes out once a month. We don't want to blow up people's emails, but it's really a consolidated way of getting all our headlines in one place. So it's easy if you're scrolling through social media to miss some of our headlines. So we are trying to have a redundancy. So we compile all the stories from the month and put it in one place. So what's our top videos? What's our top newsletter stories? And we send that out to our stakeholder list. And this, you can sign up for this on our website. But I think this has proven valuable too. So it goes out to all our contractors, business community, and stakeholders. And we're slowly growing that distribution list. It's probably grown 25% over the past 3 years. So we're seeing some fruit from that as well. So I wanted to give you a little sample of, if you haven't seen our newscast, this is something that we put out every month, and then I'll get into more of the details of the show here in a minute. Now that song's going to be stuck in your head the rest of the night.
Not if you watched BBC.
I want to give you a flavor of kind of the look and feel of the show. We invested heavily to make this have high production value, that something that people actually want to watch. We hired the host of the show actually out of local news, so she's a reporter by trade, does a fantastic job. Really the goal of this show was, you know, we had the newsletter that was coming out, we had weekly stories, but there's so many things that's like, it doesn't really make for a newsletter story, or it's not as engaging. And there were so many things kind of left on the table we weren't talking about that weren't necessarily a good fit for the newsletter, but they were kind of left uncovered. And so we wanted a mechanism where we could share the full scope of EM's mission, everything we're touching, beyond just the core projects we're doing. And so with this show, we're definitely doing project updates, but we're also talking to former employees like you saw. We're touring facilities where they used to work. We are talking to businesses that are moving onto the land that we cleaned and transferred that land. So there's so many things that wouldn't necessarily fit in the bucket neatly for maybe a newsletter story, but it's really engaging content, and it helps people fully understand everything that EM's doing in this community. We're always looking for new angles and new approaches to keep it engaging, to keep it something that people want to watch. In our December episode, we actually added a cooking segment. So I was happy to have something just a little bit different, but it was somebody had found a cookbook from the Manhattan Project that was specific to Oak Ridge. And each recipe had a story of the person who cooked it and the types of food people had here during the rationing. You know, something a little different where people were learning history, and gave us something a little more lighthearted for kind of our December episode. But we're always looking for content to help people understand Oak Ridge better, the community better, and our work and impact here. So we're always looking for more subscribers. If you have not subscribed, trying to get our subscription count up. But if you're looking for our monthly newsletter that I described, if you just scroll down to the bottom of our webpage, all you have to do is type in your email address. It's that graphic to the left. Just type in your email address, hit subscribe, and you're automatically in. We make it super easy. If you're interested in our videos or seeing our monthly newscast, if you're on our YouTube channel, which is US DOE Oak Ridge, you can see our channel name at the top. Just click the subscribe button right under a video, and then you'll get notifications anytime we put out a new video. And this is where it's going to get a little nerdy, but it's very interesting. So social media platforms are gathering more information than you probably realize. But that's helpful to us on the back end, because we know where viewers are coming from. We know where they're watching. We know what devices they're watching on. There's so much information that we as an office are starting to mine that data and kind of connect dots and figure out, you know, what content people want to see. You know, we can even, well, I'll get to that here in a minute, but this shows where people were coming from to watch this episode.
Can you, for this old lady's eyes, can you read a couple of those categories to get a taste?
Yes. So the first
Look at pinpoints.
The first says direct or unknown. And so that's going to be our monthly newsletter we send out. We have a direct link to the episode. So that's letting me know that about half of our views that month were coming from
People who are getting the newsletter.
from getting the newsletter. The second in the list says YouTube recommendations. So if you are on YouTube, if you're on the homepage, you might there's automatically videos populating your homepage. And if you like the thumbnail and it looks interesting, you click on it. Well, that's what YouTube recommendations mean. It's like 24% of the people that clicked on the video saw it on YouTube because it was recommended. It was pushed into their feed. 4% of people watch from a YouTube search. So that means they actively clicked in the search bar and clicked Energy Cast and found it that way. So it's kind of helpful to know, you know, if our newsletter is working. It's like, of course it is. Half of the views are coming from people clicking that link. So then getting into the data a little bit more, we can see other places where people were clicking the link from. So some people were coming when we shared the link on Facebook. Some people were finding it from LinkedIn and things like that. One thing that's interesting to me is it's telling us what our average view duration is. So that episode is 17 minutes long. The average person watched for 7 minutes. Well, then I can go back to the episode and say, what's the story that started after 7 minutes? Maybe people lost interest there because it's not something people care about as much. And so we track that each month to know when we're trending down, what the average watch time is, and just kind of change our coverage based on the trends we're seeing right here. Does this make y'all want to watch or make you want to get on social media?
I'm a Luddite and it's just all the reasons I'm not on YouTube.
So it gives us the data for us to kind of know and plan future communication. And so we actually have somebody on staff that just put together a 18-page report about what our growth rate was, what the trends are, what our top stories are, which newscasts have the highest view counts, what stories were in there. It's for us to give the people what they want or to know what's working well. Some trends we saw, in case you're interested, big demolitions at Y12 always do good. There's one particular building at ORNL that anytime we talk about it, it blows up. So this is one of the most, maybe that's not the best phrasing.
Not the building.
So this is, if y'all have heard about building 3026 hot cell, this is in central campus at ORNL. We've taken down the outer structure and took down all the hot cells except for one last remaining hot cell. We've built a protective cover over it. And this is one of the most contaminated structures in central campus. So there was an item that was highly irradiated at a super, super high level, and people found that story very interesting. So for this one, I had over 200,000 views on this Facebook
So they
story alone.
shared it around, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the secret to it is if you see here, it tells the insights here tell me what percentage of people are followers and what percentage are non-followers of people that clicked the story or liked the story or viewed it. Only 5% of the people that viewed this story were our followers. 95% were non-followers. And that's because so many people had shared it that it got outside our normal network. And so those are the stories that I want to do more of because we'll get outside our normal audiences and we'll start growing our audience.
Basically giving them a scary story.
It's not scary if you read it. It's talking about how we're safely deactivating it, getting it ready for demo, and how this actually opens pivotal space in ORNL Central Campus for their modernization effort. I'll send you a link after and you'll feel much better about this.
No, I'm not worried. As a child, I worked those hands when they would give us tours with Union Carbide. So it doesn't bother me, but it just seems like I'm trying to figure out why it was interesting.
Yeah.
What caught people's.
Yeah, we did a video about it. It got 500,000 views. We got 500,000 views when we did a video on it. And then when we did a story the next year, this is just a website story, 200,000. Another group of stories that do really well is when it's focused on the people. We did a specific story on the people who operate the large equipment taking Alpha 2 down and the skill involved in that and how they went through the apprenticeship program. Like it's such highly unique equipment to operate this 120-foot reach. How does somebody even get to the stage where they operate that equipment? And so when we shared that story, their family, their coworkers were sharing it. So it's a project story. People are learning about the project, but then the people behind it. And then stories involving something historical or former workers. Those do really well too, because people get to share their stories and you get engagements and likes that way. One of our best videos performance wise was we interviewed a man that was 101 years old at the K-25 reunion last year. And so he was a guard when they were constructing the K-25 plant in 1944.
Something.
Yeah, he was the guard, and so we
Young.
yes. So we posted that video, and that did exceptionally well. Somebody that was there when it was being built. We try to build relationship with our local media. We try to at least have 1 to 2 media events a year where we bring media in on something that's visually appealing, interesting stories that would do well on TV. So in July, we had a media event at Alpha 2 to show demo progress. Every TV station in the area came out to it. And then we're actually going to do a follow-up now that it's complete. When Tim Walsh is in town, we'll have a press conference at that same spot at the end of the month. So it's another opportunity to bring media to us and get coverage, because it can be a little difficult breaking into the Knoxville market. Even though Knoxville's so close, getting the attention of the TV market in Knoxville can be a little bit difficult. Because of our relationships and outreach with media, we've also had some special coverage on WBIR about Isotope Row at Oak Ridge National Lab Central Campus. We actually had national coverage. Fox Business came in town to talk about or learn more about the uranium-233 project and how it's helping cancer research. So we had a good year in media space this past year.
Ben, did those events, did the other media program reach out to you and say, we want to do this? Did Fox come to?
Fox reached out to us.
Reached out.
And they know about that work because of the work we do proactively and stories and videos, and they caught wind of that, and then they reached out. So I mentioned we have the public involvement plan that we update every 3 years. We also have our program plan on the right. We update that every 2 years. So we released that in 2022. It continues through 2032. And so that the goals in that document don't change, but our progress on those goals do change. And so we just want to update kind of as a scorecard to let people know how we're performing on those goals. That usually comes out in the fall timeframe. The other document is our cleanup progress reports, and that actually comes out annually. That usually comes out in the January timeframe. And I have copies of those if y'all are interested. And they're all available at this facility and on our website as well. The cleanup progress report just lists all the projects we've either completed or started in the previous year. We're also increasing what we call our open house information sessions. And so this started out, this started out really as a commitment when we were earlier in the EMDF outreach, the EMDF project. We've given commitments that we'll continue to give updates as there's progress on that specific project. So it started out as inviting people out or having poster sessions to keep them informed about that project. And then we expanded it to, hey, we just want to give updates of where we are on everything, because that's just one of a bunch of projects we're working on. And so that's really kicked off in a big way the past 4 years. So in that time, we've had 2 events in the Scarborough community. We actually just hosted an event 2 weeks ago at the Oak Ridge Conference Center here in town, and that was really well attended. We had one event in Kingston to try to talk to people we don't normally talk to a little further out. And we had one event actually on the footprint of EMDF. We want people to understand that project a bit better, get eyes on the area. And so that tent you see on the picture on the left, we actually drove people on a bus out to the actual site. And I think it really helped some people that had questions about what it would look like, where it is, and that kind of thing. I think it helped build some context for that. And lastly, these are the messages we're hoping trickle down, or what people get out of the messages we're sharing. The first is that EM's work is helping ensure local communities are safe, clean, and prosperous. We don't want to just be safe, although we do want to be safe. We want this community to thrive. And there's a step between safe and thriving. And so taking those extra steps of not only making sure the land is clean, but that it can be put back to use. So it actually benefits the community. So it generates tax dollars. So it boosts local employment, things like that. So it adds a little bit more meaning to our project. So if we don't do cleanup for the sake of it, although it's a worthwhile endeavor just for that. But in Oak Ridge, there's extra meaning behind the cleanup of we're creating a better opportunity for the community. We're clearing space for national security. We're clearing space for research and that kind of thing. So that brings us to the other messages is our cleanup at Y12 is really helping support important missions there for national security. At Oak Ridge National Lab, we're clearing space for the next big discovery. At ETTP, we're clearing space for next generation energy companies. And then finally, something we hope people will get out of our messages is realizing that we have committed employees that care how the work is performed. We want to do it the right way, on budget, on schedule, and when possible, we find ways to do it at a savings to taxpayers. So I can think of at least 4 stories that have come out over the past 6 months that have focused on savings. $10,000 in savings and how we recycle batteries at Isotech, $1.7 million in savings of us taking demolition equipment from Portsmouth and using it here instead of buying brand new equipment. $300,000 in the way we crush drums as we empty out the Alpha 4 building, $16 million in savings and how we deal with classified material from Alpha 4. So anytime we have examples like that, we want to show, because we know a lot of people think of government spending being too high or being wasteful, and we really want to show that we're mindful of that here and we're doing everything we can to do it efficiently. So those are kind of most of our stories. We hope hit on one of those bullets. So with that, I'd love to know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ben, for the presentation. We'll go ahead and ask board members if they've got any questions. Raise your placard, please. Questions?
I just have a comment. It's an easier story to tell now than many, many decades ago. Because people thought that everything was secret behind the fence and guarded, and you can't find out what's really going on. And now with the advent of clearing the legacy nuclear facilities and making way for new technologies, new events, new priorities, it makes your job easier to go in and explain to everyone what's actually going on and the progress that's being made. So I applaud you for taking advantage of social media, and like Harriet said, you know, you need to be careful when you click on the YouTube and everything else, but it is advantageous to you in knowing your audience.
Yeah.
And it's a far cry from when people would come around and say, "What are you doing over there at K25, Harold Connor?" And so times are different, and it's exciting. It really is.
And also, I should have said the amazing work by our employees make my job a lot easier. I mean, great things are happening here, and it makes it easy for me to do my job.
Yeah, we've got something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm an old lady of this city, and Union Carbide used to have family days and take families into the areas.
Hmm.
And the other thing they did, I was going through my mother's stuff, they gave safety awards. Physical things
Yeah.
that the families got because there had been no accidents for X amount of time. And, you know, it was Pyrex dishes and, you know, all kinds of weird things for the wife. That's what they were doing then. So it's a different operation now to how you interact with the community.
we have any questions online? See any hands, I don't think.
If anyone has questions online, if you want to raise your hand or type into the chat window.
So for the new things that are going in, do you have any say in how they what they do with their waste, or
Yeah, that's a good question.
how they
They all need to have
construct
meetings.
things? So if there's an accident, there's stop gaps or something like that, like.
The new businesses moving into.
Well, especially like at East Tennessee, there's more nuclear stuff going on there, so.
Yeah.
What kind of, do you have any?
So,
Roger gets it.
so the new businesses, for
Yes.
instance, Oklo, Radiant, Orano, all of those.
Because they're not government now, so you're not.
Yeah. So the authority for DOE and the NRC come out of what's called the Atomic Energy Act, very old. And back in the 70s, I think, late 70s, it broke apart, and it everybody was under one. Now it's all federal mission actions like Y12, OREM, Paducah, Portsmouth, ETTP, all of those fall under the authority of DOE. All privately owned and operated facilities that are doing other missions of that nature for utilities and for just private industry. The authority for those all falls under the NRC. And so they have to go through the NRC process of first applying for a license to just even construct their facility. That's a fairly lengthy process. There's a lot of public involvement steps there. And then once they've done that, they have to get another part of their licenses to get an operational license before they can operate. One of the things that has changed in the last several decades is now, as part of their operational license, they have to actually demonstrate how they're going to dispose of their waste. So that is, yeah, and it is a difficult question. You know, it is, quote, and you know, as the administration points out, this is what we would call green energy, but there's no such thing as something for nothing. And so you know, the something for a lot of this industry is still the question of spent fuel. What do you do with that? And Oklo has stepped up and will be reprocessing. One of their missions is to reprocess fuel. But even doing that, there's the part of the fuel that comes out and is reprocessing, but there's the stuff that remains. And so that will be part of their licensing process under the NRC. But we, DOE, other than preparing the property for transfer and in certain cases, doing what we can to help facilitate that transfer and get the property ready for them, that's sort of where it ends for us. We stay in contact and make sure, because this is a very important point. The areas that we've transferred, while we have cleaned them up, it does not absolve DOE under CERCLA. CERCLA has a covenant that goes on forever. It's in perpetuity. If they dig up something that we left there that we missed the first time around, we have to go back and get it. So we work with them to ensure that when they are doing construction on their site, building their new facilities, that they're doing it safely from the perspective of, are they following the land use restrictions that we put in place, things like that. And so there's quite an effort, both from DOE, the state participates in that action, so does EPA. The deed restrictions vary from site to site, but there's a process where they have to notify us, and then we notify the state and EPA of different actions that are being taken.
And they have like security too.
Yes,
I mean,
they will, but how much security they have and what kind, that will all fall under the jurisdiction of the NRC.
Do we have any, members of the
Yeah.
public?
I just got one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Mine.
So-
Go ahead.
Going back to your energy cast. So knowing that you, let's say you have like pretty consistent like fall off at like the 7 minute mark. Have you considered like shrinking it or filming it in a way that it can be broken apart into like sections? So like each project can be kind of like teased out. So you have the one big one, or here's all the little snippets that you could just go check out this one project.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have condensed it already. It started out as a 30-minute show. Now we're, most of them are between 18 and 20 minutes. This is gonna sound odd to say, but 7 minutes is a long time for people to stick with it.
Real.
But that is a good point. We treat the newscast as a whole, but then like you said, we also pull out each story. So if people didn't watch the whole thing, we'll post just individual stories after the newscast airs, and that does really well. So for instance, our January episode got 2,000 views on YouTube, which is good. We're happy with that. But we broke out the Alpha 2 story that was within the newscast, and it got over 30,000 views on Facebook alone. And then the Beta 4 story that you saw mentioned, which was at the very end of the show, which if people tuned out at 7 minutes, they would have missed. And that's gotten 22,000 views on Facebook yesterday alone. And so as we break out these pieces, we tried to not think of failure if our energy cast as a whole didn't get the numbers we want, because we're still breaking out content individually. We still can count that as success too. But that's a great point.
Do we have any members of the public that have questions or comments?
This is not public comment, yeah.
Mr. Close
Go
up.
ahead. It's not public comment. Do you have questions about the presentation?
I was trying to be sure I understood. Thank you. Well, actually, I do. That's what I wrote in my notes real quick on this and then later, Brett. So Mr. Williams, Doug Colclasure, 103 Monticello Road, Oak Ridge. I'm a committee member on the Greenways Committee in Oak Ridge. And Mr. Williams said, what are some of the content that we might suggest? So I haven't followed the energy cast closely, but the environment in Oak Ridge Reservation is pretty phenomenal. I haven't had coverage on it, that I think you could put some video together on that, at least from the kids and rural sciences and wildlife sciences could be quite good. The wheat reunion every year out at the George Young Church was pretty exceptional this year. I mean, there were at least a dozen kids under 6 years old there with their parents, whose grandparents, whose great grandparents lived there in the wheat community. And the third item that came to mind was the west end of Oak Ridge was once an extensive peach orchard. You know, those might be topics that would be of interest. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Williams? I said any additional questions for Mr. Williams? No.
Keep up his good work.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, do we have any requests for new action items? Shirley, do we need to let
We do have public comment.
public comment? Okay.
Mr. Lewis, if you had you said you had public comment?
No.
Okay. Louis?
Yes, so Luther Gibson, I was a member of the board from 99 to 05, and chaired 2000, 2002. I was a contract employee from 77 to
17. And I'm also on the board of directors coalition of retired employees. And I thought tonight's presentation would be more on the public involvement plan itself. You know, you cover kind of a general communications, you know, type thing. But anyway, I've comments on the public involvement as well as current issues. Seeing this presentation, I feel it's about 1 year late. Actually, it should be presented at a real annual planning retreat as part of a basic regulatory orientation and introduction. Updates, as you said, updates to the public involvement plan are triennial milestones in the Appendix C of the Federal Facility Agreement. And the 2025 update was drafted and being reviewed by FFA parties about this time last year. Without input from the public or SOB, and little if any awareness that the update was in progress. Now, the ORSOB has not been involved, double negative here yet, I know, but has always not been involved in preparation of the public involvement plan. ORSOB itself found in a recommendation in 1997 that the public involvement plan drafted then did not comply with FFA, CERCLA, or EPA guidance on in implementing CERCLA. And we recommended that the document be revised, and with the assistance of stakeholders and regulators, it was. And the DOE and the contractors worked with an ad hoc committee of SSAB members and other members of the public and drafted the revised plan. At this point in time, the ORSOB should at least review the public involvement plan and evaluate its performance on what the public involvement plan indicates ORSOB does. It should consider resuming activities such as assisting in preparation of fact sheets to explain things like post-record of decision changes to CERCLA documents. A lot of effort was put in on those by members of the board back in the past. Now, the goal of public involvement should be a public not only informed about decisions and progress, but providing input as a collaborator during the process. Value added from public involvement beyond that which is legally required cannot be overstated. And one of the things I see complicates public involvement here is the compartmentalization into, we have the Office of Science, Consolidated Service Center, Overage National Laboratory Site Office, and Montreal Field Office. There's no public involvement for which, in general, doing things like maybe an annual presentation on the annual site environmental report, or doing an emergency management forum where they're showing all the capabilities together. But nevertheless, though, I wish that Nuclear Regulatory Commission public involvement was more like DOE's. And I can basically deal with that right now. It's dealing with people on Zoom to Rockville, Maryland, and trying to get on those calls. And one thing you should also do as well, I have some current issues here I want to throw out though is, some of the things that are not going so well need to be kept in the forefront along with the background on them. And these include the path forward for mercury at Montreal back to Paulus, the mercury treatment facility. The path forward for return to Verde Ridge wastewater treatment plant to normal sludge operations. Is there going to be construction involved there? What's it going to cost? ATTV has a limited budget. Then this emergency removal action that took place for the White Oak Creek sediment removal structure. How serious was that? And it's a good chance to orient the public on what the background of the problem there is. Then we have the time critical removal action for White Wing Scrapyard. That these things are supposed to be 6 months or so, and it's been talked about over a year. Then we have an activity going underway with the CX6 Railroad on transferring the right of way to the Rails Trails people, Rails 2 Trails. And I believe an NSA might be involved in that. So in an NSA doing a CERCLA, what's the public involvement there? And then and Eric and Roger know how I feel about this one. I'd like to see more public involvement around the partial deletion rule on this decision, and half the reservations does require cleanup. So those are things that are on my mind tonight.
Thank you, Luther. Do we have any additional comments?
Doug, do you want to come up here?
Oak Glacier, 103 Monticello Road, as I mentioned, member of the Greenway Committee. I reported to work at Y12 in 1968, and was only 2 or 3 years later, I recognized one of the good fortunes of accepting the job, but it was a natural park right at our doorstep. A lot of it wasn't accessible at that time, but more has been. But I remember going out to Carbide Park at the time and thinking, wow, look at this. And I can come out here anytime at that time with a sticker on the bumper of the car. This past weekend, a bass tournament for high school kids was conducted at the park. Held there at the park. Most of the folks that came from all of Tennessee to participate weren't aware of this beautiful resource. So the point is, the 16,000 acres that have been declared, free of any further mitigation is a conservation national treasure. And as we move forward with repurposing and redevelopment, we just need to emphasize that conservation has economic value. Great Smoky Mountain National Park held a 75-year reunion in 2010 and had an event there at Newfound Gap. An old timer who was a teenager when the park was established in 1935 stood up and said, had you not preserved this, we would not have it today. This is a pivotal point. New industry. I took a senior manager of one of the new industries asked me to take him on a tour. We were about an hour into the tour. The leaves are off now. You can see deep into the woodlands. They looked in the woodlands and said, my, this is a high functioning ecosystem. What are you doing to preserve it? I think that's our challenge as we go forward. Look at this. The city is constantly focused on greenfield for meeting growth needs. Drive out the back of this building and drive down that street and ask vacant, blighted, how are we repurposing footprint that's already here before we, move to a partial. But that's the point. I think the Oak Ridge site-specific advisory board has a part. What is site-specific about Oak Ridge? 16,000 acres of old forest, 80 years old, mostly undisturbed. That's the point I thought was important, and what Ben is, Mr. Williams is doing is clearly can be a part of that. He can focus on that. Maybe you already have. I haven't watched all the energy killings. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all of them.
Unless anyone else has comments, anyone online, public comment? If not, we will continue to accept comment until the end of the week.
Do you have any requests for new action items? A request. Our next meeting will be March 11th. Oh,
That's for, that's
yeah, March 11th. I need my glasses. 6 o'clock. All right, need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second. Motion carries. At the end of the presentation portion of the meeting, thank you for the presentation. You're welcome to go if you'd like.
You're free, you're free.
You're free.
Sitting here on the tail end.
Yep. Look at that. Let's start with board business. So February the 11th. We have any requests for new action?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you reached out. So yeah, I think you'll find his input very helpful.
All right, Roger, you doing the VDFO's report?
Yeah, so back in shortly after your last meeting in August, you all had prepared a submission of a recommendation on the DOE's 2027 budget request. And included in your packet is DOE's response to that recommendation. Do you have any questions about our responses? Be happy to try to address those. Greatly appreciate it. As always, so for anybody here who's new, this is the one recommendation that we sort of require of you. It's one of the major functions of SSAB. But always I know at times it may seem like it doesn't get a lot of attention, but it does. It goes up to our headquarters with our budget submittal and this including and then recommendations from TDEC and EPA. They all get attached and they are looked at. So those are appreciated. Let's see. If there are no questions on that, we'll go into the next one, which is officer elections and memberships. As Eric pointed out, it is a lot has happened in the past year. We are in sort of a unusual situation in that we do have some new members proposed. The approval process of those new members is different than it has been in the past. Those membership proposals have to go up through White House staff now. And that is where they are right now. Until they are approved, new members are not technically active members. Some and then former members have dropped off. Where that leaves us is there is no longer a quorum of active members. Until the new members get approved. Now, Chris and Harriet have been nice enough to their terms have not expired and they've agreed to continue acting as chair, I believe it's secretary. We appreciate that. But really what it means is you can discuss business, you can do business, but you can't actually, like if you have a recommendation, you can work on the recommendation.
Nobody's listening.
You can't send it anywhere.
Wow.
What I would get to send it, you have to vote to approve it and you can't do that right now.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is if you have an idea for a recommendation, work on it. And then at some point, this will break loose and you will be a full board again, have enough members. And then you'll vote on all of them and you'll send out a whole bunch,
And clog it up.
Hopefully that we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully that will get straightened out.
Do you have any predictions of when that might occur?
As a DOE employee, no.
He can't.
I'm not going to venture into that one.
Roger, you've been around a while,
Mhm.
kind of like our
Yeah.
font of knowledge.
Okay.
Is this a unique circumstance or have there
I
been
don't-
delays in
Yeah,
the?
I don't think we've ever had
Remember?
this type of approval process imposed upon us.
Right, and I believe we are the first site to be going through this new
It's
process.
double stagger at their end too.
I mean, there's. Make sure I'm looking good. So it's not, so if it makes you feel better, it's not just you all, it's us too. So for instance, Melissa is your DDFO. She is basically our local representative. I'm alternate. Over the last year, some of the other sites have lost their DDFOs. And so the question has come up, well, can a DDFO from one site act for another? And I think what was it, yesterday? I saw the email that said, no, that's not,
I did not get that email.
no.
No, I believe they said we could. It's
We
all,
could?
it's strictly voluntary, but if they don't have a
Okay.
DDFO, they can ask one of us and we can volunteer to help them while
Yes.
they try to figure out how they're going to go forward.
So it's just not the membership that's being affected, it's the federal representative, yeah, the whole thing. And, it's not uncommon when a new administration comes in to have some hiccups, everybody wants to do it a newer, better way, and so they make changes. I would say this one probably has gone on a little longer than usual, but hopefully we will keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully it will resolve itself. So.
Chris, this is Mary Butler. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Claire.
Hey guys. I just have a question. I was approved to be on ORSAB in 2022 under a different administration. And as I recall, there were bottlenecks from the White House then for us, not talking about all you other employees, but what's different for the ORSAB applicants now that didn't exist in 2022 under the previous administration?
Let's hope to avoid this one.
You don't have to answer it if you don't want. I'm just, because you
No,
mentioned
you
something's
asked
different now, but I remember
No,
a
you asked a very
bottleneck
fair-
back then.
You asked a very fair question. When we propose new members, there's criteria that we are given that says, you need to have members that represent this, that equally represent the community. The criteria that the previous administration gave us, the new administration didn't agree with those criteria and have really, I don't think, given us real clear direction on what the new, well, we did propose new members.
We did, they created some new criteria.
Yeah.
And so we met that in what we sent forward.
Yeah.
But in addition to our criteria, the approvers themselves got direction as well.
Yeah.
They probably likes this.
And in something new they're doing this time is people at the White House staff area are actually reaching out to some of those new or renewing members to chat with them.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
not sure
That
what
that
that
helps me understand what's different.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, and Mary, if I can jump in, I
Please.
believe the situation in 2022 was based on a new EM head person wanting to change the process. So
I see.
that's why it took it. This time, it's not the EM administration, it's higher than that.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions on those? So I understand, like I said, you can't vote for new membership right now. We apologize for that. If you have an issue with that, please let us know and we'll try to help work through that. But they're really, at our level, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Response to comments, we talked about your recommendation for the budget. Work plan, so we are the work plan for the upcoming year, which is really sort of this sequence of presentations that you will hear and what the topics are and what the work, what issue groups need to be, was presented to the executive committee at their last meeting now. So now we're showing it to you. As always, if you're interested in any of them or all of them, you please sign up. I mean, the more involvement we have from all of you, the better I think the recommendations end up being. The one that everybody will be put on is the issue group for the budget. Since that is a requirement, it is a required one that you have to do as a group, and it actually is sort of the root. What's been pointed out in his presentation, funding is sort of the big driver. So, the better the comment on that one, the outflow of that is better recommendations on other topics. So we encourage you to get involved with that. Who do they contact? They contact you?
Me, Sarah, the main ORSOM email, any of those. Those of you who've signed up for issues in the past that we will have this year, we've carried those over. There's a sheet listing the signups in your packet, but there are some relatively newer topics that we haven't covered in a while that we'll need people to sign up for. So if you guys can just take a look at the work plan itself and then that sign up sheet that's in their packet as well, and let us know what you're interested in. And you can change that at any time throughout the year. If you sign up for one thing now and then later you get interested in something else, that's perfectly fine.
Any questions on that? No. Okay. Thank you.
You. I'll give the executive committee report. We talked about the same thing, officer elections, and also approved the work plan that is in the packet. Those were pointed out, they're subject to change, but that's kind of the platform right now. So our next meeting for the executive is March 4th, and I will ask Mr. Moore, do you have anything for stewardship?
At present, no. It's been a minute since we've had a meeting, so. But our next meeting will actually be February 25th and not March.
Yeah. That was my bad, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we have any additions to the agenda? Additions. All right, well, thank you guys, everyone. Appreciate all the people online too. We had a good turnout tonight, it looks like. And so you guys.
I move we adjourn.
Take a motion. So,
Thank you.